In regard to the law of Dinim, there's a famous argument between the RambaM and the RambaN presented in all the books speaking about the 7 Noahide laws. The RambaM writes that the mitzvah of Dinim is that every Gentile society, every Bnei Noach government and city should erect a court that should judge the people according to the laws of Sheva Mitzvah Bnei Noach, and including punishing those that demand punishment, as explained elsewhere in the book, and other details that the RambaM does mention. For example, education of the society and bringing up the ideas and teaching and having a correct influence on the society, that they should know the laws in a correct manner. The RambaM then adds another point which is controversial and problematic. The RambaM says, and if a court or a judge or a witness, that means a capable witness, that saw a case that demands judgment, and he refrained from bringing this to the court, or the judge refrained of judging the case, or even refrained from punishing according to the correct law of Bnei Noach, this is considered a transgression. RambaN on the Torah in Parshas Vayishlach says that it doesn't make sense to him to say that we find a punishment on somebody that doesn't do an act. Refraining from a correct act just by sitting aside and not doing, in Torah law for Jews, we know never calls for a punishment at all. So it would seem, in the RambaN's logic, very remote, unaccepted to say that the law of Noahides would demand punishment only because a person had the possibility to bring judgment or punishment and only refrain from doing so. Then the RambaN goes on and says, but to my opinion, the law of Dinim is in regard to the other issues that society needs. For example, all the monetary laws of business transactions and theft and repayment and all the other issues in monetary law, which we recognize as Choshen Mishpat. These are under the law of the Noahide society and the Noahide court to make correct laws and to judge accordingly. There are many opinions in the Achronim how to exactly interpret this argument between the RambaM and RambaN. I think that the most correct, and I will follow it now, is the Chatam Sofer's opinion on this issue. The Chatam Sofer says that the argument between the RambaN and RambaM is very limited. The main point of the argument is exactly how to refer to the mitzvah of Dinim. Is it a special mitzvah, even though it is a positive mitzvah, that calls for an equal punishment, which is the outstanding opinion of the RambaM, and the RambaN disagrees, or Dinim is more of a general positive mitzvah that has no correct and immediate punishment for the mitzvah of Dinim itself. But that the RambaN says that the mitzvah of Dinim for Bnei Noach calls for their obligation to correct the society in general with correct laws and fitting laws, every country, every society, every situation, and there should be courts and people that make the laws that should be fitting. This, the RambaM agrees to the RambaN, although not stated at all, and probably not even hinted in the RambaM's Hilchot Malachim, although the RambaM there is very brief, and the RambaM only quoted sources straight out of Chazal, and almost did not bring out any new ideas, not any new ideas of his own. So it could be that the RambaM did not write it, but definitely incorporates the law of Dinim as a very general, positive commandment on the government of Bnei Noach, the society, and obviously all the individuals, to make a correct system of law and apply it to every country. But in regard to the general obligation of what dinim include, we find many sources. The Rabbi, in one of his most famous sichos in regard to the laws of Bnei Noach and dinim, explains, bringing several sources from Rishonim, that the law of dinim as a moral obligation demands that many mitzvot that we have in the Torah, that the Torah specifically gave to Jews as mitzvot, for example, tzedakah and gemilut chasadim, that the Bnei Noach are obligated on a Torah-based law, although it's not a specific extra mitzvah, but it's part of the general attitude of dinim. And the society has to be correct. And correct society means to taking care of people that need help, assistance, and poor. And this teaches that the Noahides are obligated in tzedakah and gemilut chasadim, and these are only examples. Many other Rishonim and Achronim include in this general frame several, or maybe many, mitzvot of the Torah that Bnei Noach are obligated as correct behavior for themselves and the society and so on. So the Khatam Sofer says, definitely the RambaM agrees to the general attitude and point that the Ramban says, but that the RambaM says that dinim includes judging of the other 6 commandments in a normal court of law is obvious from the Gemara. The Ramban definitely doesn't disagree with the Gemara. And what the Ramban adds, that to my opinion, they are obligated in regard to all society norms of monetary business and so on, it would seem quite logic that the RambaM accepts this. We have to add on here another point that many Achronim quote, that it would be obvious also for the Ramban to accept a negation of mitzvah dinim in a positive transgression would also demand a capital punishment. For example, a witness that comes in a Noahide court and lies in the court giving a false testimony, or a judge that accepted bribery and changed the law according to bribery, and they were judged afterwards accordingly, they should be deemed under the Rambam's general opinion that even for the law of dinim, Bnei Noach are chayav misa, they are obligated for capital punishment because of transgressing in a positive way the mitzvah. We were only speaking about refraining and not doing, what is called in Hebrew, shev v'al ta'aseh, that he did not do an act. And here's the chidush of the RambaM. Okay, we will put that aside now, and now I want to speak about what the Ramban teaches, that, to my opinion, the Ramban says, and this, in his saying of the words, to my opinion, it was obvious that the Ramban meant that this is a chidush because it's not mentioned in the Talmud and earlier sources. I want to explain the difference between the chidush of the Ramban, and as according to we explained in the Khatam Sofer, that the Rambam also accepts this. And now we can understand why the Rambam doesn't even write it in the book, in his Yad HaChazakah, in the laws of Malachim, in the laws of Bnei Noach, although he does agree with the Ramban, but it's a chidush, and both the RambaM and RambaN will look at this whole scope of the law of dinim as part of the mitzvah, an obligation on every Noahide society to uphold the dinim, but it is a new channel, a new area of laws that we have to deal with it different to the 7 general laws of Bnei Noach that we know as Avodah Zarah and Birkat Hashem and so on. The laws that were given from Shamayim through Moshe Rabbeinu, as the RambaM says, and Chazal orally gave this over, that they were commanded from Shamayim on 7 specific mitzvot, and many details of these 7 mitzvot, that they were commanded. And we're going to call this now the absolute law and the Torah law given to Bnei Noach. That means Hashem commanded Moshe to teach and command the Bnei Noach that these laws they must keep, and these laws they must keep in this specific way, including punishment and judgment and so on. But in regard to the new laws, these are according to the decision of the people themselves, of the courts themselves, the society. So we have a very great difference here. The first difference, we have many differences, and I'll give some of them. But the first difference is that in the Noahide law from Shamayim, there cannot be, in truth, a difference between one society, one country and government and another. Because the law given from Hashem is one. So all the Noahides are equally obligated to uphold the laws that are absolute laws and to judge them. But those laws that were given to the human understanding of what the law should be, they may differ from government to government, country to country, people to people, society, and time and time. And it's no contradiction to the general idea of the Torah not being changed, because the Torah not being changed are the laws given from Shamayim. But laws that were specifically given to be decided by the court and the legislators should adopt and be fitting to the people that they are governing and helping to keep the Yishuv HaOlam, keep the normal society. So it might be a time or a situation that the same court will deliver one law, one order, one punishment, or something else, and in another situation, another time, they will change their decision, and this is not considered any change, but rather this is the true way of keeping the Dinim. So we have the first difference of the absolute laws that cannot be changed no matter what, and the laws of Dinim. For example, tzedakah, as we used before, there might be in one country and one society that the courts and the government made a law that every Noahide must give 1/10 of his income for tzedakah, and they must keep it. And the courts may even punish whatever decisions they have to punish those that transgress this law. In many other governments and areas, it will be probably appreciated and appraised of a person that gives tzedakah, but there won't be any specific dimension of what this calls for or an obligation that they must give 10% or 5% or anything. But rather, it was a general attitude that they will teach their people that they must think about the poor and give tzedakah. And this will not be a contradiction, because the whole idea of tzedakah under the law of Dinim was given over to the ideas and the thoughts and the feelings and obviously the situations of these different societies. Okay, that's the first difference that we have between the laws that the RambaM is speaking and the laws that the RambaN is mechadesh. And according to what we said before, there is actually no argument. There should not be an argument between them. Another and very important difference is in regard to the many specific laws that we find in Dinim, in the Gemara, and RambaM quotes them, that define the court of a Bnei Noach. Who can be a judge? Who can be a witness? Under what circumstances do they judge and must they judge? And under which circumstances they don't have permission to judge, and so on. This would apply in a Bnei Noach, in a Noahide court that is ruling under the Noahide law of Torah. And in these specific areas, they must judge according to the Noahide law. But in other areas, they may judge according to their own opinion, according to their own way of what is called making a court decision. Maybe they don't need witnesses, or they can accept witnesses that are invalid in a Torah law, but they may accept them. Or proof from circumstantial evidence. And they have permission to judge under the general umbrella of Dinim in this area, because this is a new type of Dinim and laws that was in general given over to them to decide. So just like they can decide what should be the law for the Noahides, this specific Noahide society, in regard to tzedakah, they have the same right to judge what should be the punishment of one that refrains from giving tzedakah, and they have the right to decide how to judge, under what type of court, what type of evidence, and so on. So we have the second difference between the law of Hashem that cannot be changed. Not only the laws, the procedure of the court judging and punishing cannot be changed, but the laws that were made by man, or were Hashem gave the Noahides that they should decide on their own, they can change and decide a variety of punishments, judgments, ways of judging and proving, and so on. A third and a very important difference between these two points, again, the mitzvot of Bnei Noach that were given from Shamayim through Moshe Rabbeinu, and the laws that societies and governments should make courts and make their own laws according to their possibilities and their needs. And up to now we spoke about in areas that are outside of the 6 or 7 Noahide laws. Many rabbis in our generation, in the last 100 years, have clearly explained that the law of the Noahide court can only apply in a society that is basically a Noahide society. That means the government upholds the Noahide law, the society, and the majority at least, upholds and believes and follows the Noahide law, and the court, that means the judges themselves, are God-fearing and Noahide righteous people that are fit for being judges. But in societies in our days, when the governments and the society at large and the judges themselves are completely unfit for the Noahide obligation of law, there are definitely, every Noahide is obligated to keep the law regardless of the society that he's in, and the governments are obligated, klapei shmaya, that means before heaven, to correct their systems of law, that there should be Noahide law, but that's not what we're talking about right now. But given the situation that a government and the courts do not follow the Noahide law in general, not in their behavior and not in their way of judging laws or accepting what is a law and what not, they do not believe in the system, and the people at large also are not participants in the Noahide system of law, the question will arise, is there any value for a Noahide people that, although they're not observant of the Noahide law, but they do many good things, although they don't do it for the sake of heaven, or they do it because it's a mitzvah from Shamayim, but still they do upkeep, many governments and societies upkeep correct and good laws to keep the society to refrain from theft and causing damage to other people and stealing and killing and so on. Although they don't keep many other areas of law, of the Noahide law, and they don't even believe in it. So the question is there any value in their courts? And the answer is definitely yes. As we said before, that the law of Dinim is not only the exact law of judging these specific 6 or 7 mitzvot under specific circumstances, which is the peak of the law of Dinim, as the RambaM says, but the RambaM added, and Khatam Sofer says, and many Achronim agree to this assumption of the Khatam Sofer, if it is indeed the RambaM's opinion or not, but we can say that this is a majority of the rabbis in general, that the idea of Dinim is to influence the world, governments, society, and obviously the detailed people, the particular people, to be better, to help themselves in being correct one to another, keeping the society in a correct way and allowing people to live, like we know the famous pasuk, Lo letohu b'ra'ah. Hashem says, I did not create the world for chaos, ela l'sheves yitzor. I created for civilized, people can sit together, live together. So any bringing forth and helping and assisting to this idea is definitely part of Dinim.